Season 6, Episode 5, The Thrill of Destruction, just aired today. And you got myself and my boy Dylan Beal breaking it down for you. The Degenerate Duo is back, and we are going to be hitting you with a recap and a great discussion of this week's episode. Dylan, how you feeling about this episode?
I'm feeling really good. I mean, I feel like we're saying this week after week, but damn, it is banger after banger. It's so good.
Yeah, I feel like this is the response you want, though, right? Like you want to keep saying, "I feel great about this episode," right? So I
Yeah.
don't, I don't feel super guilty having the same reaction every time, right?
No, and I think we all expected this, right? Like this arc, I think is probably one of the most hyped up ones, besides maybe the villain arc that came like last season. But this is one of the most hyped arcs of all time, and they're nailing it.
Yeah, and I think they really have to. Like this is like, I mean, we are coming off like, I would think what most fans would feel like is like kind of like a flat season. I don't think we had too many major qualms with it, but it is definitely something that we want to make sure that's done right. We want to see it
Yeah.
well executed.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're standing up to all the other anime that's going on this season right now, like fall is absolutely packed. We're gonna have to bring the heat to actually compete with some of the other shows.
Well, that was just it too, right? It's such a heavy hitting season with Chainsaw Man and like one of the goats, Bleach, getting like like another season like that. Like it's a hard thing to contend with, but I think I want to say it's doing quite well.
Yeah.
Every time I look at the I want to say the hero rankings, the anime rankings, like My Hero is still like a top contender, which is great. So before we get into the discussion, I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap of the episode, and then we'll get right into it. So our episode kicks off with the hero reinforcements showing up to help Endeavor, Mirko, Mike, Eraser, etc., and basically kind of like even the playing field fighting the Nomu, especially because they're getting fairly battered up. That being said, though, Mike left in the last episode to left Exilus to basically finish off Shigaraki. We don't know why, but of course Shigaraki gets shocked and wakes up. Absolutely murks our boy Exilus. He's out of here. He's gone. We get a quick cut to Tokoyami actually ditching Fat Gum and going to rescue Hawks. We then are faced with basically Tokoyami and Dabi squared off, with Dabi basically trying to make Tokoyami aware of basically what Hawks has done, and for him to see the greater impact of heroes and how shady they can be. Tokoyami, of course, is unfazed, but he's almost taken out in his escape if it wasn't for Geten, who basically is acting more of I call him like a field commander, trying to rally the villains to thwart the heroes. That then leaves us with Dabi saying some very ominous, "I guess I'll get started early," and we get no further elaboration. That's it. We go back to Deku and the gang, basically starting evacuations, but because Shigaraki is now woken up with his improved decay, he not only levels the hospital, almost killing several heroes in there, Crust being one of the more prominent ones. He also wipes out a good portion of the city, which causes everybody to hasten the evacuation. And then the episode ends with Shigaraki getting his Akira-esque cloak and waking up Machia. So it was a very like dialogue heavy this episode, but I think it was needed and it was very well done. You can feel it. You can the
Yes.
anticipation is getting to you. The anxiety's
Yes.
setting in.
Yes, the demon lord himself is awake right now.
It's man, and he like they're doing him so good on screen. Like he's commanding it every time he's there. It's great.
All I want to say, the biggest bag fumble in existence is Exilus, though. The man didn't have to shoot the tank. He didn't have to accidentally wake him up. It was because he shot that and accidentally moved one of the wires over to the water, or the water hit the wire that
Yeah.
Shigaraki's up. If he did not do that, would not have had the entire city leveled.
Yeah, or like one of the most terrifying villains just woken up like out of nowhere, right? The guy could have just beamed him in the head, and that would have been it. That would have been like, My Hero's done. Roll the credits. We're good. That's the end of it.
I will say, very very cool. Like we were talking about this a little bit before, and you kind of mentioned it, but like yeah, actually like super Akira inspired here. Like especially like towards the end, like picking up the cloak and everything. It's definite inspo here, but wow, seeing like the entire city just leveled, and then just like the plateau where he's sitting up on it almost like a throne, very
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, it's sick. It just it hits me right in the good spots, man. I love seeing modern like animators and artists like take from like the grassroots of I think of a lot of like animation and in anime. And like I mean, Akira's goated. Like I mean, the Akira slide is everywhere, and this is just another homage, I think, to one of the most like inspirational movies ever.
Yeah,
Um,
and I will say though, I this is quick. this is really quick for Shigaraki waking up. I think it was kind of obvious that he was going to wake up, but I always assumed he would be the big bad at the end of this fight. But instead, we're getting him really, really early on. Like instead of him being like the, I guess like the end point that we're always marching towards in this entire war, he just wakes up very early in it. So I think that's gonna like shift the tides of battle completely from here.
Big thing I've actually noticed about the war arc, which we really haven't seen in many of the other arcs. I think maybe like early on, like the training arc where they first are introduced to the League of Villains. This is one of the first times where we're having like multi-pocket events that are kind of spread out throughout the entire battlefield. And yeah, like it usually does feel like Shigaraki was supposed to be like the end goal, and you kind of fight everybody else towards that. But now we're gonna have him woken up. We have Machia woken up. We have people still like trying to evacuate like the city and stuff like that. Like so, I mean, it feels very like chaotic, but yeah, it is. He is definitely being inserted to the battlefield. Like
Yeah, I mean, like the last time that we had kind of a fight like that, I would say was probably like the Force training arc. It was the last time. Obviously, the scale was way, way, way different of where
yeah,
it was like a couple people fighting here and there. And this is obviously, dozens and dozens and dozens of people like in these different areas. So yeah, I totally agree. Like it's incredibly chaotic. It's very cool. I'm interested to see if we're gonna have like not time shifts, but like I wonder if we're gonna like spend some time in an area and then kind of like semi flashback to see what was happening in a different area or not. Like I wonder how that's gonna end up playing out.
yeah, because like time management actually becomes like very screwy with dealing with those things. I think it's a little easier in manga because you can just like write the panels and then you go back and then you just like put like a few hours earlier, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not that difficult. But I think in animating that, it does become a little sketchy because continuity for the viewer becomes a little skewed if you don't execute it properly.
Yeah.
The so I guess talking about Shigaraki and his like awakening and everything like that, we had some pretty like I guess prominent and not so prominent deaths because of it. I mean, Xless, we like Xless was getting axed. We knew he was getting axed,
Yeah.
but Crust, dude, Crust just getting taken out like that. Like it's such a he seemed like such a cool hero. It's a bummer. Like
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting because I don't think we've really had death in My Hero like this before. Like, especially two people that are pretty prominent, that are known heroes at the very least, just dying. And yeah, Crust being a top hero too. Like, I think he was he was,
Devin, I
yeah, he was
think.
top 10. He was a top 10
Yeah.
hero. And then also like the shot of him going out, just like a thumbs up and stuff. Very, very, very cool way to go out. But like, damn, like people are actually dying.
Yeah, like and not to I guess undersell a death or anything like that. But is that a Terminator throwback? Is that what
I
that
think
is?
so. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it's a Terminator throwback.
I mean it's Horikoshi. He absolutely adores Western media, so I would not be surprised if it was a Terminator or it was like or it's All Might. You know what I mean? Because All Might was always big on the thumbs up too. So like
Oh, I could totally see it being all my like homage as well. Yeah.
yeah, exactly right. But either way, like goes out with a badass, saves Eraser. Like I mean like and like that scene like you and I basically went on this like maybe like would we spend like 15-20 minutes going through like panel by panel from the manga
Hmm.
to the animation and like it's borderline flawless like
Yeah.
it's they're nailing everything. So yeah, for us to lose a top 10 hero so quickly is like because he's just like dead just like that. Like that's how scary Shigaraki is.
Yeah, and at that, usually something like that would be a lot more focused on, I would say. So
Mhm.
that paints the light now of like almost anything can happen. Now, when I say anything, I mean anything except a student death. We're not going to get a kid death. There's no chance Shonen Jump would ever just have like one of the students die or whatnot. But like this does open it up to like people can just die. Like this is our third death so far in this arc.
Yeah.
We've had twice, Exless, we had Crust. Like we're at the moment of where like things could radically shift now for My Hero. We could have the League of Villains entirely, besides Shigaraki, could just die. Like that's on the table now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just it. I think it like really ups the stakes that you can like how they're kind of introducing because it was kind of slow and very like again dramatic with like Hawks killing Twice and stuff like that. Like that was very like drawn out and stuff like that. And then it's just like okay, we got the first one out of the way. Death can happen everywhere now, right? Like that's kind of
Yeah.
because like it's not only these two as well, but also a bunch of the like unnamed like extra heroes that were kind of helping with the evacuation. They just get all taken out. Like that is like it's a frame, right? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless whether they keep going through it or not, they set up like I don't know like the right like narrative like terminology, but I would say like it's the Game of Thrones that they set up, right? Of where you
Mm.
kill off the major people early, and now that sets up a precedent of, oh damn, anybody can die. Whether they do or not is regardless of the point, but like now that environment is set up.
Yeah, it puts the piece onto the table where previously it didn't really feel like it was there. Like it really didn't. We had Sir Night Eye, who was again basically introduced to die,
Yeah.
and that was and that
Magni,
was
I guess Magni, she was like the only one who actually
yeah.
was like really, really killed right out.
Yeah, and I remember us talking about that because like Magni's death was like, holy shit, that just happened in a flash, and that was it, right? Like,
Yes.
and I guess like I there is like thinking back to the overhaul arc, there was a couple others. There was also the desert like sand kind of hero as well. He got taken out by overhaul fairly quickly as
Hmm.
well. So I mean, like they aren't afraid of it, but they don't rapid fire it like this usually. You know what I mean? This isn't the typical shonen My Hero tone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, weird that we're kind of segueing back to the overhaul arc because he's directly referenced in this episode. Like overhaul gets a nice little throwback here
Yeah.
with the quirk stealing bullets. Like why like why are we getting this now? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, so this is like a definitely like a good. So I think one thing that My Hero does weirdly very well is they connect their villains constantly. There's always a through line, and like the best example is Stain.
mhm,
Stain shows up in the beginning and then is gone, but like the ramifications of Stain showing up and like his message or whatever, you can draw a through line all the way to like literally last episode with Dabi, right? Like
yeah,
Dabi mentions Stain, and it's like, okay, first of all, this is really cool that they're able to do this. But with Overhaul, the big impact there was the quirk erasing bullets.
yeah,
And where we last left Overhaul off, the League of Villains broke into like his van that was going to jail and was
yeah.
like and stole like the bullets or whatnot. Now, what's supposed to happen with them? Because like obviously like Chekhov's literal gun right now of like you can't just
Yeah.
show them and then not circle back to them, and we see that some of them are kind of decayed. Maybe not because of just Shigaraki, but just like in general they're kind of decayed. So there's
Yeah.
probably a limited amount. There's probably less than there used to be. They have to be used, right? They
They
have
have
to
to
be
be
used on someone.
yeah, and that's just it. And like it's not like he didn't elaborate saying like, "Oh, I need to like make more of these" or something like that. Like that wasn't it didn't seem like the intention. So you got to wonder, okay, like who's getting shot, right? Like that's basically it at this point, right?
Well, I mean, I think we don't know if they have been synthesized or whatnot yet because like the
Yeah.
the doctor was the person that could have done it. And I think that's why they originally took it is like so the doctor could have done that, but I don't know. I don't know if the doctor ever had time to. So I guess like the question is, well, regardless, the doctor's probably like taken away by now. I think they have secured
Yeah.
him at least.
I
So
would
it's
yeah.
just Shigaraki with the bullets. So okay, if you had to use it, so Shigaraki has the gun, right? This child has a gun. Who does he
He's a
who does he shoot?
teenager.
Who does he shoot? You
Who's
think?
gonna
I mean, the
these
obvious
guys?
obvious one's like Deku's
The
like the
obvious one's
obvious
Deku, right?
choice.
Yeah, Deku's
That's
the
the
obvious.
obvious one.
Yeah, but like I feel like Deku's too mobile. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like he's too hard to hit. And like I don't know, does he take out one of his buddies as I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna shoot. I'm gonna axe one of your friends, sort of thing, and make Deku go off the rails. Like how does? But like I mean, most of them are fairly mobile as well. Like I mean,
I have two. I have two.
okay, hit
One's
me.
the most impactful. That like no shot. This happens. It's Endeavor. That would be insane. He shoots Endeavor. The second number one hero just goes away.
Gets taken out. Yeah,
Things are just over. Things are over at that point. Not gonna happen though. Not gonna happen. Number two. All right. This is I think the most realistic. Ready?
hit me.
Present Mike.
Oh, dude, but then we're gonna get the Aizawa like revenge arc. Like you're
Which
gonna have,
which would be so cool, right?
yeah, and because it would play into his archetype so well, right? You have the brooding like soloist hero, and like he lost one of his buddies already, and now you like erase the hero like the quirk from his other buddy. Yeah,
And not
yeah,
only that though is then because like not only is it like kind of story impactful, but then also you can underscore it with a bit of comedy afterwards, because then you have Quiet Mike, who just like is not loud anymore, and like you,
Yeah.
it'd be so good. It would be so good for the story.
Oh my, you can. He'd still find a way to be a nuisance. Like
Yes.
after that, you know what I mean? He'd just be super loud. He'd carry a microphone or some
Yeah,
shit.
he would
Like,
carry a microphone. He would pick up an instrument or something. He'd get a kazoo.
oh my god, man. I mean, it's believable. It's
Yeah.
believable for sure. Because I do think it is like unrealistic that somebody. I mean, Endeavor's been getting shafted pretty regularly, so I'm not. I almost don't want to totally shelve that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, it seems very fitting to like build a hero back up and then just have him like lose his quirk. Like that wouldn't surprise me either. But
So
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead.
I think besides that though, like, what is the grand plan of the bullets? So the more I think about Shigaraki and his motives, and the more I think about AFO and his motives, is it just to like figure out a way to take away everybody's quirk? Is that like the grand objective here? Because we know that AFO can take away people's quirks by like touching them, right? So we know that
Yeah.
ability's there. Is this kind of like the through line of like figuring out how do we in mass just take away everybody's quirk?
But it like with AFO, it's never been about taking away quirks and not gaining them. You know what I mean?
It's been about power though.
It has been about
yeah.
power. You're right. You're right. But like I don't think it super lines up. Like Overhaul, that was always his deal. Was just like axe everybody. I don't care. Make everybody even. Like all that stuff. But like him still being in control. But AFL, it just doesn't. It feels. It doesn't feel greedy enough. You know what I mean? Like he's just so selfish all the time that it feels like it's not just removing the quirk; it is possessing the quirk as well. I don't. So like it almost doesn't line up with their motives. I think at least.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's
Literally Chekhov's bullets, though. We
it's
will
it is
see. We
Chekhov.
will see.
We have to see because you can't not right. Like
Hmm.
so I guess like on the like the final part of Shigaraki and his whole thing, we have the awakening of Machia as well, which has been like constantly foreshadowed this entire season. Like it's just like every episode they're like, oh yeah, Machia's just hanging out in the corner.
Yeah.
How do we think that's gonna go? Because we did have a deliberate scene of like Mount Lady and stuff like that, right? So we're just gonna get, are we just gonna get like Clash of the Titans kind of thing? Like, is that how you think it's gonna go?
I think so. Like, I'm trying to rank where Machia sits in terms of how strong he is, because we know he could beat the League of Villains outright.
Yeah.
And we know that, like, he's at least as powerful, if not a little bit more, than Shigaraki was before whatever's going on with him now. So
Mhm.
that means, like, his level is surpassing Redestro. That's like
Yeah.
that's a big force. I don't know if Mount Lady can just like stand up to him. Obviously, like that is like the obvious pairing there, but like
Yeah.
I wonder if this is going to be like bigger destruct. Like I think you're probably going to have a big force that has to fight him, right? Like that's going to be one of the central battles here.
Yeah, and and not to not to downplay the hero strategy, but their game plans are never like, oh, let's just have isolated 1v1s and see how that goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to assume that it's going to be Mount Lady plus several other like supporting heroes kind of thing.
Do we have any other big heroes?
Like
The Dragon
like,
Lady. The Dragon Lady.
Yeah, Ryoku.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, she's pretty but I think she's still like small in comparison to Machia,
Yeah.
right? So, but like we really haven't seen any other heroes that are like gigantification or anything like that, right? So, yeah, I think it's going to be anybody who can like basically support Mount Lady and kind of go from there. That's my working idea of how this kind of runs down. But I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah,
either way.
it is going to be a good fight. But speaking of very good fights, what's going on with Dabi? What did he mean? I guess I'll start early.
Like, so we do know now that Dabi is like kind of like a lone wolf within the League of Villains. Like he does his own thing, but we don't know what the fuck he's doing. Like we have no idea.
Yeah, like is he just gonna like set off a random bomb or something somewhere?
He's a domestic terrorist at this point. Like I mean, I wouldn't put it past him at this point. Like
Like everything about him just like perplexes me. The fact that like monologuing is a legitimate skill he has to use because of his quirk is hilarious to me. Like the fact that he can't just like keep popping off, so he has to like monologue, and there's a reason why he monologues. It's so funny to me.
I don't think in the history of any villain I've ever seen in any series has monologuing been a part of the skill set. Like I don't think I've ever seen that. So
Yeah.
for them to capture it with him is insane. But yeah, no, he's not even really like that peeved that like Geten kind of like screws him over. He's just like, okay, all right, I'm
Yeah,
just
he's
gonna
like
leave
really
now.
laissez-faire about all of this stuff, which again, like I don't, I just like I can't put my finger on what's his motives, what's going on with him. Like Twice dies, he's laughing the entire time. He's like
So, yeah, he
basically
does say,
toying.
yeah, he does say that he can't cry. Like so, but like again, is that like a feint? Like to say that like to see he's like more invested than he actually
Okay,
is?
but
Like
even if he can't cry, he doesn't have to smile like an insane person.
I guess so, yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you're sad, right? If you're sad and you're trying to cry and you can't cry, are you just smiling ear to ear for no reason?
I feel like this is like his baseline though when he starts like popping up. I don't know, man. Like Dabi, I think Dabi might be like one of the most complex characters within this show. Like he rivals Bakugo with like depth and like mystery and stuff like that, right? Like it's I don't know. I don't even have like a working idea of like what he's getting up to at this point. I
What if
mean,
he,
I'm
what if he's the one that shows up? Like he just grabs the quirk erasing bullets and then he's just like popping people left and right.
does that again though? Does it line up with? We don't know his motives. We have no idea. So I mean, it could. We can't even be like, yeah, I guess that kind of works with what he's wanted to do in the past. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea.
I still think he is like some sort of like he's like an alternative villain, like as in like he's a villain from a different organization, right? So like I think all things line up for him being a villain, but from a different villain organization. Because like we know his loyalty is basically to Stain's idea from
Mm,
last episode, because he's like one of the followers of Stain, so we know that.
yeah,
We know that for some reason he knows Hawks' real name. Like no one else really knows Hawks' name. We know that like he said something mysterious to Hawks. Like we don't know what he said, but he said something mysterious. So like
yeah.
what would that like what that like tries to tip me off of? Not only that, but like the fact that he is like kind of just like messing. He it seems like he's messing around at this point, and then he's like, okay, now I'll get started. Makes me think that like he is like a villain from a different organization, and that organization has some plans going on. That's like the only thing that makes sense to me here, like at all.
Yeah, like because he's like again, he always seems like he's very much like a hero of convenience with which or a villain of convenience. Sorry, with like the League of Villains and stuff like that. Like he's just there by association. He's like, okay, this kind of benefits me, but doesn't at the same time. But I'll go along with it, sort of thing. So like yeah, like seeing him like have like a another hierarchy that he kind of answers to. I don't think is out of the question. Like I really don't. Like and again, back to like the episode prior. Again, not very often do you get a show that just mouths words for no reason. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that like it's such a like holy shit you need to pay attention to this sort of thing, right?
Yeah, like the only other thing that I could think is like maybe he has some other thing going on with All for One, because we know that he was able to show up with a high-end Nomu, right? So clearly,
Hmm.
like he's working with All for One. So that's the only other thing I can think of is like he is not like he's not a part of the League of Villains, but instead is like something with All for One. Like he's All for One's like special little project or something.
See that seems a little more believable to me that he is just like like maybe like a contingency plan in case Shigaraki goes sideways sort of thing. Like
Oh yeah. And that lines up with like All for One's like style too, because like
mhm,
All for One always has a trick up his sleeve,
yeah.
constantly, all the time. He always has like another plan. Dabi could be that plan.
And Dobby definitely seems the most capable out of the League of Villains sort of thing, right? Like in like I don't think they ever really reveal like why Dobby joins the League of Villains. He's just kind of there, right? So
Yeah,
I think that might be the most believable at this point. I'm down to go with that. That being said though, I think we need to get into the Plus Ultra award for this week. So for those who may be just joining us or have been longtime listeners, you know what part this is. This is the Plus Ultra Award, where we decide who has gone the most Plus Ultra, and we have gone anywhere from animators to directors to concepts, and of course heroes and villains as well. So Dylan, since it's just you and me, I'm gonna let you start us off.
I It's obvious. It's Shigaraki.
Yeah.
It's obvious. Like the man wakes up and is just like, all right, the city's gone, and disappears the entire city by just touching the ground.
Yeah, like he like the level of his quirk right now is unmeasurable. I think at this point, like it's hard to put a cap on that.
Like the only other person I think comes even somewhat close is Tokoyami. I think Tokoyami
Okay.
just like jumping in front of one of the most dangerous villains of all time and like saving his mentor like that. And not only that, but like with that kind of speed, I think is pretty impressive. But like still blown out of the water by Shigaraki.
Yeah, like Tokoyami is not like he's not by any stretch a close second anything. But yeah, Shigaraki is the obvious winner, like for sure. But it is nice to see that Tokoyami actually listening to his mentor as well, like really like made sure that speed and flight were like a big part of his mantra at that point, because that was always something that he was scared to work on. So, but yeah, no, Shiggy's the obvious choice.
Yeah.
So I think that does us for this episode. Unless Dylan, you have any closing points?
No, I'm excited for the next one.
I know, just keep giving them to us, right? That's all for the Class 1A podcast. You can always find us on YouTube at Class 1A or on Twitter at Class 1A Pod. We do a bunch of stuff now. So we're doing Demon Slayer. We do My Hero, of course. And myself and Andrew have recently started Blue Lock. So catch us all for that. And Dylan's going to have the manga breakdown tomorrow, I believe. So
Yes, it's a good one.
it is a good one. All right, guys, we'll take it easy, and we will see you all next week.